And as you know, I run Empowered STEM. Empowered STEM is an A-level course provider, and we provide A-level courses in biology, chemistry, physics, and maths for those students that want to enroll in medical, dental, veterinary, financial, and engineering programs at the chosen university in the UK. So today, I wanted to come in and I wanted to talk about GCSE habits that secretly cap A-level grades. So parents, if your teen is in year 12, the very first term of year 12, you may be in for a bit of a shock. And the reason is, this is what you notice. You notice that your teen did so well at GCSE. They got the 8 or the 9 in A-level in GCSE maths and GCSE science. And then you're wondering, well, why are they struggling at A-level? And to you, it doesn't make any sense. You're thinking, well, yes, you see, but the thing is, Graham, is that they're obviously working hard. They worked hard before. They put in the time, effort, and attention. They had some kind of a revision plan that must have worked. They knew how to prepare for the exam because they got the 8 or the 9. So why is it not working at A-level? And now you notice this. At A-level, the very first academic term of year 12, you notice that the grades are beginning to dip. The confidence is beginning to drop. They're working just as hard, but the issue is that the results feel unstable. Sometimes they get a good grade on a test or a lab report, and other times they don't. And now they're beginning to wonder and question, am I actually able to do A-level maths and A-level science? Should I even bother studying to be a doctor, a dentist, or a veterinarian? So what exactly changed? Well, it's not your teen's ability. It's not their intelligence level. It's this, is that the GCSE revision habits that they used to get the 8 or the 9 at GCSE maths and GCSE science, they don't scale to A-level. The core problem is this, is that they've got familiar habits from GCSE that they're now applying to a new academic environment, and it's not translating over. Now, at GCSE, there's so many different revision strategies and styles that they could have used. And I've heard them all. I've heard them that all you need to do is reread the textbook, highlight your notes, memorize all the mark schemes to every past paper question you can get your hands on. In fact, if you just do every past paper question out there for about 3 months before the actual test, Graham, I tell you, you get all the information into your head, and then on the day of the test, you go in there, you just write everything down on the exam. You've seen the question so many times, you don't need to understand what they're talking about. You know what the answer is. Boom, you're done. You walk out with the 8 or the 9. But at A-level, this revision strategy doesn't seem to work. And parents always ask me, why? Simple. The A-level exam is designed to test application of knowledge. It's not designed to intent to examine content memorization. So, for example, at A-level, they test depth over coverage. They test application over recall, linking concepts together. These are known as synoptic links rather than just listing facts. Precision over volume. The issue is this, parents, is that if your teen continues using the revision strategies that they used at GCSE, the grade is going to cap out. It's going to be capped at a C. It's going to plateau out at year 12, and at year 13, they'll also end up getting a C in A-level maths and A-level science. Why? It's the way that the exam is geared. The exam is written by the exam board. For you to be able to break into a B grade, you need to be able to apply the knowledge, not just regurgitate the knowledge. That gets you to a C. So what are these habits that teens use? Now, first off, I don't blame anybody. I really don't, parents. So your teen is not doing this on purpose. They're doing this because they don't know any better. But number one, rereading notes and highlighting. Yes, you've probably seen your teen do this. They come in. The very first thing they need to do is they need to reread the couple of pages in the textbook. They've got to copy over their notes. They may have a perfect set of notes. They've got to copy them over again, highlight everything, get everything nice, neat, and organized. And then they can begin doing something else. And they think that this is a good way to revise. Well, it worked at GCSE. And this is the argument. They said, well, Graham, it worked at GCSE. Yes, it did. But the reason why it worked at GCSE is that the GCSE exam was focused on content retrieval rather than application of content. So the base of knowledge, the content, carried significant weight. But at A level, what happens is that rereading the notes, it gives you familiarity, but it doesn't give you mastery. And what do you think that they're going to test on the exam is mastery of the content knowledge. You can tell this because what happens is your teen, they feel confident about, yes, I've got this, got this concept down. I understand it, until they see a structured exam question. And then all of a sudden, the confidence just dissipates like mist, doesn't it? It's just gone. Because familiarity, parents, does not equal performance. Second one, let's revise everything equally. Now, again, at GCSE, this made perfect sense. Broad coverage of all the concepts, all the knowledge out there, just put it through a cycle, and then you memorize the answers to everything. You're good to go. It's bound to turn up on the exam somewhere. But at A level, it doesn't work. This strategy doesn't work. And the reason is because marks are lost in a predictable fashion. You can actually tell where the teen's going to lose marks or where they're going to gain marks. And so if your teen has this idea that they'll revise everything equally, what they're doing is that they're revising what they understand, what they know, the strong topics, is the same amount as the weak topics. And so when they come to take the test, they're falling down on the weak topics because they still don't understand it. And a better way of doing it is to revise the weak topics more than the stronger topics. If you get it, what's the point of revising it? Spend that time and revise the weak areas. Because trying to revise everything equally spreads your teen's effort awfully thin. And there's only so much time in a day and so much time in a week that your teen can spend on revising A-level maths and A-level science. So improvement requires precision. The third habit, avoiding exam-style questions early. Now, this is the big one. You probably, if you're talking to your teen, they probably say, yes, well, Mom, Dad, I can't do exam-style questions yet because what I've got to do is I need to understand the topic first. And so I've got to reread the notes, watch some YouTube videos, do some practice questions, copy over my homework, do that lab report. Right? What they're doing is that they're putting off doing exam-style questions. Why? Because exam-style questions, parents, indicate to your teen really early on what they know and what they don't know. It's kind of a wake-up call for them. But what's the point of going through exam style questions early? It's this: A level performance at the A and the A star range. A level performance is built through interpreting command words, knowing the difference between describe and explain, structuring longer answers. The examiner is looking for it to be laid out in certain ways that they can find the key information that your teen wrote down. Managing time pressure. This has to be a big one. The number one factor that I hear about poor test grades is I ran out of time. If only I had an extra 10 minutes, an extra 15 minutes, Graham, I would have got that last question. And it shows them how to link across topics, because on the final exam in year 12 and the final exam in year 13, all the topics, they're not topic tests, they're all in a one big exam and they're all linked together. And so avoiding doing past paper questions early, it stops them from being exposed to the exam questions and style and techniques that the examiner wants them to learn. And so their performance is always going to be underdeveloped. Why? They don't have a metric to go measure it against. They don't know, do I really know this concept, or do I just think that I know this concept because I copied over my notes and I watched a couple of YouTube videos? Habit number 4, passive study over active recall. Passive studying or learning means you're just sitting there and somebody's teaching you the information and you're just listening. All right. It's known as passive learning. At GCSE, right, you could be successful at GCSE and earn the 8 or the 9 by doing just that, by reading the textbook, rereading the textbook, copying over your notes, watching some YouTube videos, writing out some summary sheets. Yes, you can get the information into your head. There's only the content that you need to have in there, and then you can regurgitate it on the exam. On the A-level version, slightly different, because A-level maths and science, they require your teen to be practicing active recall. Can they apply the information, the concept, under time constraints, the length of the exam? Are they self-testing? Are they going through feedback loops? Now, this, by the way, it comes from the 6 pillars of neuroscience as applied to learning. But without this kind of retrieval practice, what's happening is that it gets kind of into the short-term memory of your teen, but it doesn't move into the long-term memory of your teen. And they don't have a really good understanding of the concept and all the sub-concepts and topics in the head mapped out. And so their recall, their memory of the concept becomes a little bit fragile. Habit number 5, mistaking effort for effectiveness. Again, parents, I've heard this one so often. Students often think, well, Graham, I've studied for hours and hours and hours for this test. I've done enough. Surely I have. I've been up all night. I spent the entire weekend studying for it. But at A level, it's the quality of the focus is more important than the quantity of time that your teen puts in. In other words, 3 hours of your teen sitting there passively learning, passively revising a topic is less effective than 45 minutes of active recall and targeted exam practice. The latter is going to give your teen the higher grade on the test. So, what exactly scales at A level? So we know that the GCSE revision techniques, the GCSE mind trap, is not going to scale over to the A level. Okay. Well, what you need is, you don't need a method of memorization at GCSE. What you need is a system at A level for getting the A and the A star grades on a consistent basis, on a predictable basis. At Empowered STEM, we use the PATH method, which is 4 steps to the PATH method. Let me take the PATH method and apply it to the situation. Very first step then is precision diagnosis. It allows your team to identify patterns in lost marks. Why are they losing marks? Is it because significant figures, lack of units, didn't write down every point for the concept questions, didn't quite get the 4-marker calculation question right, the organic mechanisms, didn't get those right? They know why they are losing marks. And because they know why they are losing marks on each of the different types of questions I just mentioned, including the 6-marker, they know how to fix it. Second step is conceptual clarity. They revisit foundational concepts deeply. Let's just not do the glib gloss over of the concept. Let's actually step it down and really dive deep into it so we really understand the concept, forwards and backwards, left and right, the 360-degree approach. Strategic revision. Again, let's not bother wasting time revising topics that you already know. Let's spend that time and revise the weaker areas, whether it's the concept itself or the type of exam question that they're going to ask you. Let's look at the weaker areas for the most of the time, rather than spreading your time evenly across all topics. And the last one is this: medical mindset. What your team need to do is that they need to detach their identity from the marks. As I tell the teams in this, is this: the grade you get on the test, it's not your identity as a student. It is a snapshot of what you know at the moment in time about this topic. It is an indication of your habits of studying and revising, which can always be improved. What you need to do is that you need to focus on steady improvement. Every test, if you improve on every test, even a couple of percentage points here, a couple of percentage points there, you will begin to scale the letter grades. And the reason is this, is that when your teen walks through the 4-step method that we use at Empower STEM, their confidence shifts. And the reason that the confidence shift is this is because improvement now becomes measurable. They know the mistake that they made. They know how to correct it. They know how to practice the right way of doing it. And they know that they're going to get higher grade on the next test. And it's the confidence spirals upwards, doesn't it? So parents, what exactly can you look for? What questions can you ask? Well, you can reflect on this yourself, or you can have a conversation with your team, and you can ask, is my team just mainly doing passive revision, or are they actually doing active revision and study techniques? Are they avoiding exam questions, putting them off until the last minute, or are they incorporating them into their weekly revision cycle? Do they know exactly where they lost marks on that last test? Or did they just take the test and just like slide it into the filing cabinet, which is the back of the folder or the back of the textbook? Are they revising strategically, looking at the weak areas as compared to the strong areas? Or are they just revising extensively, just broadly revising everything? Because the goal, parents, isn't more revision. It's more directed revision. So let me tell you a real student story, and we have so many of them. I'll tell you the one, Gabriel. Right. Gabriel When Gabriel enrolled in one of our courses, he's in our A-level chemistry course. He had strong GCSE results. He had 8s and 9s in GCSE maths and GCSE science. And this is how we started out. His year 12 A-level chemistry was using the study habits and techniques from GCSE, and his grades just plummeted. So in the end, by the end of the first academic term of year 12, Gabriel was looking at an E. And his parents enrolled him in one of our courses. And what we did is we helped Gabriel say, look, you need to shift the way that you study from passive to active learning, the way that you revise. Let's get you out of the GCSE memorization method. Let's install into you the A-level strategy, the A-level system. And we showed him how to revise and study like an A-level student. And you can actually track it. His grade in the school mark book moved up from an E to a D to a C. Now he's sitting at a B. And I'm fully confident that if Gabriel keeps working like this, applying the habits of an A-level student, then Gabriel will walk out of A-level chemistry with at least a B, probably an A. Now, what was the change then? The change, it was an effort, because Gabriel was putting in the effort, but he was using the GCSE habits, the GCSE strategies, the GCSE techniques, and he's applying them to a new environment, the A-level environment. So it wasn't his effort that changed, it was the method. So parents, let me give you some reassurance then. We see a lot at Empowered STEM, a lot of students come in where they're struggling at A-level, in A-level maths and A-level science. Even though at GCSE they were scoring, they scored an 8 or a 9. It doesn't mean that your teen isn't intelligent enough to do A-levels. It doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to do A-level maths and A-level science. What it means is that the academic environment changed, and what they're doing is that they're using the GCSE habits, and habits must evolve. And once revision becomes structured and exam focused, progress stabilizes. And then what you notice is this, is that your teen's confidence begins to increase because confidence follows evidence. Now, parents, if you're following me, if you're watching this live stream on Facebook, the first thing I need you to do is follow us on Facebook so you'll be notified of upcoming live streams. If you're watching this live stream on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll be notified of upcoming live streams. And you can also watch all of the other live streams that we do, because we're always doing live streams every week where we're helping parents such as you give you the tips, the techniques, and the strategies that your teen needs in order to secure the A and the A star in A-level maths and A-level science. Now, if you're interested in the courses that we offer at Empowered STEM, really easy. On the description below the Facebook, on the description below the video on YouTube, there's a link. You can click on the link, fill out a short form, and a member of my team will reach out to you and you can have a non-sales, non-committal conversation and have all of your questions answered. So at the end of the conversation, you feel well informed and well taken care of. And you can tell us where your teen is in the mark book, what the working grade is, what the predicted grade is, what the aspirational grade is, what university they want to go to, whether they want to be a doctor, a dentist, a veterinarian. And you can ask all the questions about our courses. Now, at the end of the conversation, if you think that enrolling your teen in one of our courses is a good fit for your teen, and we think that our course will genuinely help your teen secure the A and the A star grades in A level maths and A level science, then you've got all the information that you need to make a well informed decision. Everybody take care, and I'll see you in the next one.